Tonight, Ashland school leaders and advocates are urging for transparency when it comes to your property taxes that are directed to education. They say public funds generated from taxes often end up at private schools. Northern News Now Kyrie Johnson is hearing from district leaders about where that money is going and why they say it may clarify why you're seeing more referendums.
The Ashland School District wants its taxpayers to know just how much of their property tax dollars are going toward private school vouchers. It's a number that's already soaring into the hundreds of thousands, and it's expected to climb in the next year.
In Wisconsin, districts forward local levy money to private schools when parents apply through the state's voucher program. Superintendent Rob Prater says about 11% of the Ashland levy goes to private school students using the vouchers.
Our total levy in Ashland is about $7.8 million this year, and $870,000 goes to the voucher program.
Prater says in the last year, more money from their annual budget went to private schools, which makes up about 7% of students in Ashland. Now he and other district leaders are pushing for transparency. He says the public should know about the state's choice voucher program and how public tax dollars allow students to go to private schools.
We just want to be very clear that not all of the levy and any increases are directly related to that referendum that our voters approved.
This often confuses residents, especially when they just voted to pass a new operating referendum. And Chris Hambach-Boyle with the Wisconsin Public Education Network agrees.
81% of the districts go to referendum just to survive and not even to cover the costs that have been put into these voucher programs.
Both educators emphasize that many residents don't realize the district will pay over $13,000 for each high school student using vouchers to attend a private school, a figure that's projected to increase by nearly $70,000 in total in 2026.
And I just kept ruminating, my God, what is this going to turn into? Taxpayers need to know they're paying this.
Money that taxpayers approve that could be spent on students who stay in public schools in the district.
We live in a time and a place where people want to know what their tax dollars are used for very specifically, and they want all that information.
And it's not just Ashland. Places like Washburn and Superior are demanding transparency for taxpayers as well. In Ashland, Kyrie Johnson, Northern News Now.
Ashland residents should be receiving an insert with their tax information this year disclosing how much of their property taxes are being funneled into those private school vouchers.